Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, Doctor. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Barakallah fikum. How are you, Doctor?
Inshallah. So we can start now, inshallah. Okay,
Inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wa atammit taslim ala nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen, my dear brothers and sisters, welcome back to our weekly English lecture. And today, our lecture entitled Understanding Gharar in Financial Transactions and Investment. A part of our activities and programs of the Islamic Economics Association of the University of Kuwait. Today's lecture is very important for the researchers and students of the field of Islamic banking and finance. So as we usually conduct programs, lectures, training and workshops, which focuses normally in the areas of Islamic banking, microfinance, insurance, capital market, equity market, and also some specific topics, including sukuk, fintech, retail, and corporate banking products, and many other contemporary issues. Today, we are very much delighted to invite Dr. Md.Habibur Rahman to conduct the lecture. And Dr. Habib previously conducted many lectures with us, and he discussed lots of issues. So I think we know Dr. Habib as he has been conferred a PhD in Fiqh Muamalat by the International Islamic University Malaysia. And he is a chartered Islamic finance professional having around 10 years of learning and teaching and research experience in Islamic finance and Sharia. Besides, he obtained a bachelor's degree from the Al-Azhar University, Egypt, in the field of Sharia Islamic law. Currently, Dr. Habib is a senior lecturer of Islamic finance and Sharia in Faculty of Business and Management, University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Malaysia. And he served previously as an assistant professor at the International University of Agadir. And also he is serving as a trainer of postgraduate diploma in Islamic finance practices at Academy of Business Professionals, Dhaka. So without further ado, let me invite Dr. Habib to conduct this lecture.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu warahmatullah. Marhaban, Doctor.
Ahlan wa sahlan, barakallah fikum. Let me share my screen. Is it visible, Doctor?
Yes, Doctor. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyil amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. First of all, thank you very much, Ustaz Dr. Mahiuddin, for nice moderation. As usual, Dr. Mahiuddin, we see always moderate this program, mashallah. Very much engaging. And thanks goes also to Islamic Economic Association, Nadia Al-Iqtisad Al-Islami, for organizing continuously and this kind of informative and important lecture on daily basis. I hope everyone is getting benefit from this lecture, being a student, researcher, or practitioner in Islamic banking and finance. Okay, so inshallah today I'm going to discuss some thoughts on a topic and issues of Gharar, Gharar in financial transaction and investment. I think we all know that um, there are some prohibitions when we talk about the business, investment, finance from Islamic perspective, because as the very nature of Islamic law, Islam provided some guidelines, some fundamental principles for muamalat, for doing financial transactions. So there are something called some major prohibition, some major prohibited elements that we should avoid when we do the financing transaction or when we do the any investment. All right. And we know the first thing is riba, interest, right? That is clearly haram. So that is not the part of our discussion today, but what is important or what is the major prohibited elements followed by riba is called gharar. Gharar, if we literally translate, it is uncertainty. It is something we don't know, right? Something we are not sure about it. The Prophet ﷺ clearly mentioned the sale with gharar, naha an bayil gharar, right? So, and we translate normally gharar means uncertainty, something we don't know, something we are not sure about it, something we don't know whether we can achieve the output or not, right? But the concept of gharar is actually very wide, and it is very crucial in any transaction, in any investment. Even excessive gharar can lead to the gambling. Even gharar is the major part in the gambling, in the casino gaming, because in that case also the parties, they don't know whether they will be loser or they will be gainer. All right. So any sort of transaction or in any investment, if we know that if we are not sure that whether our investment is making profit or not, or if we don't study, if we don't do the feasible study, eh, and we just blindly invest, that will be part of gharar, and that is prohibited also. We see nowadays when people see many lucrative, many attractive promotion, they say, oh, if you invest here, you will get this much of profit. And they simply just jump and they simply invest. And suddenly they lose everything, especially the investment scheme, the online investment scheme that is going on the internet. And they show, oh, overnight you can achieve this amount of profit. But we as a Muslim, we should not jump immediately. We have to be careful of this. We have to study the feasibility. We have to study how much, if I invest, whether I will make profit or not, and whether my investment is secured or not, right? Whether is there any enough protection? If anything happen, who will take care of my investment? So if we don't do all these studies, we just jump to the investment, that constitute a big part of gharar. All right, because protection of our wealth, that is also main concern in Islam, right? Protection of wealth is one of the maqasid sharia, as we know. And the wealth, the money, whatever we have, that is considered amana in our hand, right? We are just trustee. So we have to act as a like trustee. So we have to careful. A Muslim should be careful when he or she invests his money, or he or she invests his money in any business or any enterprise, right? So without making due diligence, without making proper feasible study, that will be constitute a big part of gharar. So gharar is a simple meaning, as we know, is just uncertainty, just we don't know. It's not that much simple actually. It's not that much simple. The meaning is very wide and very comprehensive. The Prophet ﷺ, in a very short form, he clearly prohibited nahan by al-gharar. So in any enterprise, in any project, if we don't know the outcome, if we do not calculate the profit and loss and whatever, then it may lead to gharar. Okay. Another point in gharar is very important. Nowadays, the financial world is talking about the disclosure, right? And there are also many requirements what we should disclose in our financial statement, on a quarterly basis or semi-annually or annually basis. All right. So non-disclosure also can constitute the gharar, right? If I do not disclose what I supposed to disclose, right, that will be considered gharar. For example, when Islamic bank offer any products, or any institution or any business firm, they offer any product, they must disclose all the necessary terms and conditions, especially the terms and condition that is sensitive to the price, that is sensitive to customer acceptance. All right. So if they do not disclose what they're supposed to disclose, that also can lead to the. So disclosure also a big part in the understanding the gharar. Okay? And we know in the corporate governance there are specifically the elements that they must disclose. Okay? Uh, Especially in insurance, it is very common, right? There are many hidden terms and conditions. So if I sell my product, putting the hidden terms and conditions, then of course it leads to the gharar. And also, in that case, I don't get the mutual consent. I don't get the actual agreement from the buyer, because I know if I disclose their terms and condition, the buyer may not purchase my product. All right, so I am misusing his unknowingness of these terms and conditions. All right, if I disclose, then he may not purchase the product. So that is also part of gharar. Okay. So in that case, gharar can be translated also generally any form of deception, any form of fraud, misrepresentation. It's all part of gharar. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, for example, Bayut Najash. Najash means to sell something by increasing the price artificial price hiking. That's also the meaning of gharar. All right. So any kind of deception, fraud, gubun, tadlis, all these form of sale, it is actually not allowed because of the gharar. So the what I am trying to say, the concept of gharar is not narrow. It's not just only simple uncertainty. No, the concept of gharar is very wide. It can be uncertainty. It can be not knowingness and not knowing the details. It can come from not doing the feasibility study, not knowing the details, just jumping into the investment and business without knowing the details. It also can come from non-disclosure part. It can also come from any form of deception and fraud. Okay. So this is the real concept. This is the concept of gharar. Okay, now our scholar have, as usual, they have different definition or different understanding in terms of the gharar, but at the end, all are agree. If we combine all the definition, all the concept given by our scholar, we can translate the gharar as uncertainty. We can translate the gharar as a part of deception and fraud, and also as part of not doing the due diligence or not doing the feasible study. Okay. So as a Muslim, when we do any investment or any financial transaction, we shall be careful each and everything, and we shall disclose whatever we're supposed to disclose. All right. So we know the gharar literally means to fraud or deceive. Scholar, for example, Imam As-Sarakhsi said, gharar takes place where the consequence of a transaction is unknown. Yes, in any transaction, if we don't know whether we can achieve the output or not, whether we can reach at the conclusion or not, whether we can conclude the contract successfully. Successfully means whether we can deliver the product and we can receive the payment. If all this is unknown, then it may lead to gharar. Okay? So it means when we do any financial transaction, we must we should make sure that the seller can be able to deliver the product and the buyer can be able to make the payment. And that means the consequence is known. Otherwise, the consequence, the outcome, the result of the transaction will be unknown. Imam Ibn Hazm is he defines the gharar very clearly. He said, gharar in a sale contract where the purchaser does not know what he has bought and the seller does not know what he has sold. Right? It really happens sometime nowadays when, especially when we involve in the online investment scheme, all this Ponzi scheme or that scheme, we don't know actually what we are buying. In MLM business, sometimes people claim that they have this product they are selling. Actually, nobody knows what the product they are selling and they are buying. Everybody just depositing money or investing money. So that is a big part of Gharar, and that is not allowed at all. We must know what we are buying, and we must the seller must know what he is selling, right? Um, Ibn Abidin, another scholar of Hanafi school, he defines Gharar uncertainty about the existence of the subject matter. All right, selling something, but we don't know whether the subject matter is available somewhere or not. Right, that also can be part of Gharar. Yes, there is some discussion in this part. Sometimes existence does not matter. The matter is the deliverability, ability to deliver. For example, something is not available now, but the seller can produce it and can make it, can deliver it on time. For example, nowadays we order many things and we already make the payment also. And after getting order, the seller produce the item and then he make delivery to us. All right. So how we can reduce the error in this part? For me, one of the thing we can do, we can check the performance of their delivery. If the performance is satisfactory, then we could say that the error is very minimum. And we know what is we'll discuss in the coming slides, that what is prohibited here, the excessive gharar, the gharar fahish, the exorbitant or excessive gharar. But the small amount gharar yasir is tolerated. So if the item is not available now, but of course it will be produced and it will be delivered on time, then the amount of gharar can be minimum in that case. Okay, so that's why in the case of salam and istisna, we know the majority scholars say it is an exception from the general principle of the rule of sale in Islam, right? Because in Islam, you cannot sell something which is not available. Then why salam and istisna is allowed? Exceptionally. But there is one opinion also from Imam Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah. They said, no, it is not exception actually, because the main concern is not the existence. The main concern is the ability to deliver, ability to make the delivery of the product. So in case of salam and istisna, if they can ensure that they will be able to make the delivery of the product on time, then this is not an exception at all, because the main point is the ability to make delivery on time. It's not the issue of existence. Okay. All right. So it is just the academic discussion, of course, but the main focus is we have to see how much the gharar is there. Even though in the issue of making delivery, if the performance of the supplier is very poor in terms of delivery, then it may lead to the gharar fahish, not gharar yasir. Okay. There is another concept related to gharar is called jahala. We know our scholar classically discuss the issue of jahala also in the classical fiqh books. And of course, jahala is it is a type of gharar. Means not all jahala can be considered gharar. Only the jahala that leads to the dispute among the contracting parties, then it may become similar to the gharar and it will invalidate the contract. It will make the contract invalid. And jahala also normally focus on the quantitative or qualitative part of the product. For example, what is the quality of the product? What is how much the product? So jahala relates the quantitative and qualitative part of the product. That's why sometimes jahala can be tolerated if it is not excessive and if it does not lead to the dispute. Means it is not the main focus in the product. All right, maybe just marginal quality or some secondary or secondary level quality that is not main concern to the buyer, that will not lead to the dispute. That can be translated as jahala, and that is tolerated. So jahala normally relates to the quantitative or qualitative part of the product, qualitative uncertainty. But the concept of gharar is quite wide, and it relates to the existence or non-existence. Something we are not sure whether it is available or not, and something is available, but we are not sure is it A category or B category product. All right, so that one may constitute jahala, but the first one, where the issue is availability or non-availability, that one will be considered gharar. Okay, so not all jahala makes the contract invalid. Only jahala that dispute lead to the dispute among the contracting parties, that will make the contract invalid. Right? Our scholar mentioned al jahala al muftiya ila niza. Amal jahala la tufti ila niza la tubtilu al. That does not make the contract invalid. Okay, so two concepts are not similar, but the sensitive part is gharar, not jahala. Right? Okay. As I said, gharar can be the scholar discuss even the AOP Sharia standard 31, I believe. 31 is talk about gharar, control of gharar. They categorize the gharar in terms of the degree or level of the uncertainty, the minimum or the medium and the excessive. So, and generally classical scholar also discuss the gharar into two types, gharar yasir. Gharar yasir means minimum gharar or a small amount of gharar. And another one is gharar fahish. Gharar fahish means excessive gharar. So normally gharar yasir is tolerated. The contract is permissible, is valid, despite having this gharar. Right? Because of course we cannot avoid the uncertainty at all. We can reduce the amount, but we cannot run away, right? Because a human being, of course, they supposed not to know everything. Allah only knows everything. So anything we do, of course, there is some level of uncertainty should be there. But yes, in order to avoid dispute and in order to avoid the adverse situation or any problem, any issues, we have to reduce the amount of the gharar. That's why the small amount of gharar, whether it is yasir or mutawassit, medium, that will be tolerated. But there is one issue that actually, is there any formula or is there anything to determine whether this gharar is yasir or this gharar is fahish or what? Actually, there is no formula like that, no mathematical formula yet to calculate the gharar. So it depends on the custom. It depends on the customary practices of the people, how people actually think about it. How do they consider it? Are they consider it minimum amount of gharar that, okay, we can proceed with that? So that will be part of gharar yasir. But if something they consider that is a significant amount of gharar that cannot avoid, then that will be considered gharar fahish. Of course, classically, the Prophet mentioned some examples, some parameters, some criteria. From that, we can get some idea on gharar fahish, when the gharar will constitute the fahish and when the gharar constitute the sin. Okay. So, gharar yasi, for example, using the public toilet with payment, renting the house with monthly payment, warranty services. Because in all these cases, we don't know how much the water they are using, how many times they will spend. and the month, sometime 30 days, sometime 31 days, sometime so. But this uncertainty is a small amount. This is okay. All right. So let's talk about Gharar Fahish, which is we have to understand to avoid it because it will make the contract invalid. This one not tolerated. Gharar Fahish. For example, the Prophet prohibited selling fruits on the tree before ripen. Okay. The fruits just appeared on the tree, but we don't know how much will exist and how much will be there at the end when we harvest. So if we sell something, and if we sell this fruit now at the beginning, maybe beginning we can assume 100 kg or 1000 kg, but at the harvesting time, it may come to the 500 kg or less. So there will be huge difference. Okay, so this uncertainty is significant because it may create a big loss for any of the parties. Okay, that's why the Prophet ﷺ prohibited selling fruits on the tree before ripening. Yes, once it is time to harvest and the tree is there, we can see, we can estimate, we can calculate, we can use our proper estimation, then we can sell it. Then we can sell it. Okay? Because in that case, yes, there is also gharar because maybe we are not able, we will not be able to calculate the exact amount. We calculate roughly, but that one, their gharar can be considered gharar yasir, tolerated, because the fruits in front of us, we can see, we can observe, even we can bring the expert individuals who can do the right estimation. Okay, so by doing that, we can reduce the gharar. And whatever left, whatever remains, that will be the minimum amount of gharar. That will be gharar yasir. That's why before ripen, it cannot be sold. But after ripen, after or at the harvesting time, yes, it can be sold, even though it is on the tree, still on the tree. So two situation, two time. It's the matter of timing. It's the matter of timing. Okay. Yes. Even though there is no formula, there is no calculation formula to figure out whether the gharar is yasir or fahish. But yes, there are some conditions, some dawabit, some parameters that should be applied or they should be attached when we consider something as gharar fahish, excessive gharar. For example, it is obvious, it is clear that the gharar is too abundant. The amount of gharar is too much, right? If you bring any not necessarily expert individuals, any individual who has the sound mind and sound brain, and he can easily assume that yes, the amount of uncertainty here is very huge. So that will be considered the gharar fahish. Yes, no specific guideline. It depends on the custom. It depends on customary practice. And the amount of gharar is very clear and it is apparent. Anybody can see or can feel it. For example, if you invest in any project without doing any study, without uh, doing due diligence, without making any feasibility study, and if there is any question asking you how much profit you can expect, you are expecting from this investment, and what is your investment strategy, and why you are investing, or what are the protection that you maintain. If you don't have any answer, any clear-cut answer, so it clearly can indicate that your investment, this one is associated with the gharar fahish because you didn't do any study, right? So it is apparent. But yes, if you have some answer, some calculation, some assumption you did, some document that you did the feasibility study, then yes, of course, there is still gharar, but that gharar can be gharar mutawassit or yasir, and that is tolerated. Right? So When the gharar will be considered fahish, when it becomes apparent. Apparently, it can be observed, it can be felt. And another criteria is it brings to hostility among the contracting parties. It leads to dispute, right? As I said in the jahala also, the criteria for jahala to make the contract invalid is that the jahala will lead to the dispute. So when people are disputing for something, it means that is crucial and that is significant. That's why nobody wants to sacrifice it, or nobody wants to ignore it. That's why they are making dispute. Okay, so this is also one criteria to determine whether the gharar is fahish or yasir. If the gharar is yasir, then everybody can ignore it, may overlook it. Nobody will be ready for dispute, right? So the first condition is the elements of gharar is huge, abundant. The amount is very big, significant. Okay. And second, normally the gharar that makes the contract invalid, that invalidates the contract, that contract should be exchange contract. Uqud al-muawadat. So gharar does not have any effect on the uqud tabarru'at, the gift, the, let's say, the wasiya, hiba, or in all these cases, the gharar does not have any effect. So with having gharar, still the hiba is valid, wasiya is valid, because there is no demand from the other side, because it is purely donation. But in exchange contract, there is demand. There is a possibility of having dispute. Right? He is asking more, the other counterparty wants to give less. That's why gharar is not tolerated in the uqud al-muawadat. Okay? So this is also another condition to become gharar fahish, that the gharar is associated with uqud al-muawadat, exchange contract. All right. Another condition is that the gharar that we are talking about, that must be associated with the primary subject matter, not the secondary, not the tabi'i. For example, when we buy any cattle, okay, we focus on the cattle itself. We focus on the cow, we focus on the camel. Normally, we don't focus on the milk or on something related to it. Okay? So the main product, the primary item, there is always something in any transaction, in any buying and selling, something is primary. Primary item, the gharar should be associated with the primary item, not the secondary, not what comes automatically. For example, let's say when we buy the home, let's say your focus is the design and the construction of the home, how it has been constructed, what are the raw materials that have been used, this quality home, quality house. So that is the primary. If, let's say, the neighbor, the issue of neighbor, the issue of front side, back side, that maybe I don't know the details about what is the front side, what is the back side, who are the neighbor, but that can be considered secondary. That can be considered secondary, right? Subsequent or tabi'i. So the gharar labudda yakuna fil asl. Fil asl means primary subject matter, not the tabi'i. So tabi, in the subsequent item, the gharar is tolerated, which means the contract is okay, accepted. But the primary subject matter, primary object, if there is gharar, then that will be considered gharar fahish. So that contract will become invalid. Right? Okay. The last condition to become gharar fahish is the contract does not uh, uh, reach the level of haja. Um, if it is something that if we stop or if we do not allow with the argument of gharar, then people will face the hardship and difficulty. In that case, that product or that practice, that item should be allowed despite having the gharar. because it becomes now norms, or it becomes now common practice among the people. It has been reached at the level of need and haja. If we stop with the argument of gharar, then people will face the difficulty. Okay? This is also another criteria to consider whether it will be considered gharar fahish or not. For example, salam, bayo salam, akhdul istisna. Uh, this has been allowed, right? Akhdul istisna and bayo salam, even though there is no subject matter yet, even though it does not comply with the general principle, general rules of Sharia, general rule of the sale in Islam, right? Because there is no subject matter, but still it has been allowed. It has been allowed. Why? Because it becomes the need for the people. If we stop using or allowing the salam and istisna, then people might face the difficulty and problem. Same goes to hawala. Hawala is the remittance, right? Transfer. But in hawala, when we do hawala, sometimes we do also the exchange of money. For example, I give the Malaysian ringgit, and it will be paid with dollar. But we know in exchange contract, in buy reserve, there should be taqabud, spot possession and delivery, right? Taqabud, hand to hand. But when we do hawala, there is no hand to hand. There is no hand to hand, but still it is allowed. Why? Because of the necessity of the people, because of the need of the people. Okay. So in order to invalidate something with the argument of gharar fahish, it must not be something that has been reached at the level of need, at the level of hajat. That is not, should not be something that if we stop it, people will face the problem and difficulties. Because Sharia, ultimately, the main concern of the Sharia is maslaha of the people, al-maslaha al-amma, public benefit. Okay? So when something contradict with the public benefit, with the maslaha of the people, in that case, that one might be continued despite having the gharar. Okay? So maybe this is, we can consider some part of concession or rukhsa, or special consideration, because we know the legal maxim, al-mashaqqa tajlibu taysir. When there is hardship, when there is difficulty, there is easiness, there is easy, there is concession. And al-amru idha daqa ittasa'a. When the things become narrow, then the ruling should be wide, should be broadened, should have flexibility. And ittasa'a daqa. And when the things becomes normal, then the ruling becomes strict, right? This is a legal maxim, very wonderful. إذا ضاق الأمر اتسع وإذا اتسع ضاق. Maybe this fourth condition can be in line with this kind of legal maxims. All right. So these are the four conditions to consider something as gharar fahish. When we can consider something gharar fahish, if the gharar is abundant, huge amount, and then if it is in the exchange contract, and also if it is in the primary object of the contract or primary subject matter. And it is something that is not considered the haja, considered the need among the people. All right. So so far we discussed the gharar fahish, the excessive gharar that must be avoided and that makes the contract invalid. All right. Gharar can happen or can be appeared many ways. It's not only the subject matter is not available, that's why gharar, no. It can come from the forms. We know the pillars of the contract. The pillars of the contract is what? For example, the forms, offer and acceptance, and the subject matter, mahallul aqad, subject matter and price, commodity and price, and also contracting parties, buyer and seller. So gharar can appear or gharar can happen from any one of them. For example, offer and acceptance is not clear. That's why the Prophet did not allow two sales in one sale or two offer in one sale, right? Safqatani fi safqa, bay'atani fi bay'a. I think previously I have discussed this issue, right? I have done one lecture on this. Two contracts in one contract or two agreements in one agreement. So this is why it is not allowed, because of the gharar. How gharar happens? Because when multiple offers have been made, then if simply the buyer say I agree, the counterparty say I agree or I accept it, but it is not clear which one he has accepted, because there are multiple offers made in one shot. So he must make clear that, okay, I accepted this one or I accepted that one. Otherwise, it will be gharar. That's why the Prophet didn't allow. So in this example, gharar happens from the forms of the contract, from offer and acceptance. Offer and acceptance is not clear. Okay. Or if someone makes the contract conditional, for example, I sell you my house if Mr. A sold his house to me. So conditional. We are not sure whether Mr. A is really will sell his house or not, and when he will sell his house or not. So the offer itself is not clear, is full of uncertainty. So this is also gharar. Okay. So this gharar is related to the formatting or sigha of the contract, or contract effective from future date. Maybe, okay, I will sell you next week or next month, but this is not actually sell. Okay, the sale does not happen like this, the sale contract. Gharar can come from the subject matter side, relating to the subject matter. For example, is simply said, we are selling an item. What is this item? What kind of item? Or unspecified attributes. No mention of the qualities and attributes. Or sometimes doesn't know the amount. Not knowing the quantity of the object, how much. Okay. But if, let's say, I'm selling something, but the subject matter is in front of us. The buyer can see the subject matter and can do the estimation. In that case, it is okay. But without inspection of the subject matter, if just simply we'll sell you some rice or some product, but how much? Not mentioned clearly. So it may constitute the gharar. Right? Selling without specifying the item. For example, selling a sheep out of a herd without a specification. We will sell you an animal from this herd, but which animal exactly? Which cow or which sheep? It's not mentioned. That may lead to the gharar. Time of performance, the maturity date must be mentioned. If there is no maturity date in any contract, then of course it will be gharar. Right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned that when you do the sale on credit, إِذَا تَدَيَّنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. So it must be on a specific settlement date. Uncertainty can come regarding the existence of the object, or it can come also regarding the delivery of that object. The existence or delivery. This issue I discussed at the beginning. So gharar can come from any side, can come from the wording, from the offer and acceptance, from the formatting, or can come from the subject matter side. Okay. All right. So as I said at the beginning, the concept of gharar, it is not simple uncertainty. It can include any kind of fraud, deception, khida, or it can also include the misrepresentation. And as I said, najash, it can also include najash. So actually, something is common in all these examples is what? Fraud, deception, hiding, or non-disclosure. Okay? So whatever is, whether it is non-disclosure, whether it is misrepresentation, whether it is manipulation, whether it is artificially price increasing, it's all can be translated as gharar, and accordingly it will be prohibited. Okay? Accordingly, the contract will be prohibited. Why gharar has been given so much attention? Why gharar is considered one of the major prohibited elements in the financial contract? We know usually we talk about riba, interest, yes, but we don't talk so much on gharar, even though this is also very much sensitive. Because in the presence of gharar, of course, there is no mutual consent. As I said earlier, when you hide any terms and condition, if the seller disclose these terms and condition, the buyer may not interested to buy, may not be interested to continue the transaction. But mutual consent is a fundamental requirement for any financial dealings, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض. So if any person does the business without having the consent from the other partner, then the output of the money itself, the property, the asset itself become non-halal or not permissible for him, right? Because he is doing some exchange without agreement of the counterparty. That's why gharar is very sensitive. That's why for Islamic banking, for example, Islamic banking products, when the bank offer any product for the client, bank must make sure that the client knows what he is buying, what he is doing. The bank must make sure that the client reads all the terms and conditions. Or any sensitive items, the bank's officer must tell him or her, okay, we have this condition. If you agree, then you can continue. Right? Sometimes we are human beings, so we tend to take this opportunity. We somehow try to sell our product, try to whatever. We don't care whether the client reads the terms and condition or not. But if any issue happens, then we show him, okay, there is a small. And another point is the terms and condition written very small font, so that nobody is interested to read, and everybody feels tired. This is also another gharar. This is also another khida. You are writing everything in the big font, but why terms and condition you put a very small font? You can make the opening account form, for example, 3 pages. Just make it 5 pages. Put it in the bigger font. Make sure that the client feels happy to read. Otherwise, it will be difficult to ensure that agreement, the real agreement from the client. Okay, so in the presence of gharar, there is no surety whether the client really agrees or not. Okay, and of course, because this is a fraud, this is a deception, so it will create a big injustice, and which may lead to the dispute. And this is also one of the ways to protect our wealth, and to protect our investment, to protect our assets. All right, so these are some hikmah, some wisdom, some underlying reason why the gharar has been prohibited. Okay, I almost reached at the end of the presentation. These are some examples. If we read the classical text, especially the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we may find we have seen many examples of gharar in the hadith. For example, classically, at the Prophet's time, people used to practice bayul hasad, bayul munabaza, bayul mulamasa, darbat al-ghais. This is all the Prophet prohibited and forbidden, all this type of transaction and practice. Why? Because of only gharar. For example, bayul hasad, sell by throwing a stone. The buyer will throw a stone and whatever items is touched by this stone, it will be considered the subject matter. So, it's like a joke, it's like a playing around gaming. Okay, but the price will be fixed earlier, and of course each item the price is different. So we fix the price earlier and we throw the stone, and whatever subject matter is touched, that will be considered the subject matter of mine. So that may match with the price or that may not match. It's total uncertainty. And it's a kind of gambling as well. And as I said, gambling actually has a big amount of uncertainty, excessive risk in gambling. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, mentioned that the risk is two types. Something is normal risk that is normally available in any business, any investment, that is okay. But some risk is excessive. That is the risk, for example, in the gambling, that is the risk that is taken without doing any due diligence, without doing any feasibility study. Okay, so gambling itself also has included a big amount of gharar. Same goes to bayul munabaza. Munabaza nabzun means throw. So the supplier or the seller throw a piece of cloth to the buyer. So let's say he is throwing, and whatever the buyer can catch, that will be his product. It's like playing, right? Bayul mulamasa, same goes, purchase by touching the object of sale. Darbat al-ghais. Darbat al-ghais means the diver. You make a contract with the diver that whatever he gets in the first dive, you will buy it with $1,000. Whatever he gets in the second dive, you will buy it with $2,000. But he may get a lot of things or he may get nothing, right? So this is there are a lot other examples also available in the classical textbook, in the classical literature. But this is all application of gharar, okay? Because in this case, in all these examples, what is common? The output is unknown, all right? Maybe one party will be gainer, another party will be loser, okay? And they are not sure whether the subject matter they can deliver or not. For example, Darbatullah guys, the driver may get nothing. So if he gets nothing, he cannot deliver anything, all right? All right, so the list is long, but I just pick up some examples. In our contemporary time, if we go for application in our contemporary time, just few examples I put here. For example, buying the item without inspection or description. Sometimes we just buy something blindly. We don't have any picture. We don't have the opportunity to check the item. So we cannot buy anything unless we see ourselves, we can inspect, we can do inspection and checking, or at least we are given the detail of the product. We are given the clear description and maybe with the pictures and so on. Otherwise, it will not be allowed for us to purchase this item. Okay. So buying the item without inspection or description, that will be constitute gharar. Selling the item without possession, where someone is selling something but he doesn't have this product, that also constitutes the gharar. Conventional insurance, this normally used to be given as an example of gharar, because conventional insurance has been structured with the sale contract, right? Exchange contract, and we know gharar is not tolerated in the exchange contract. That's why when the people, when they purchase the insurance product, and when they pay the premium, so they are not sure whether they will get the benefit or not. Okay, so this will constitute a big amount of gharar. Now the question is, what about Islamic insurance? Is there gharar? Yes, there is also gharar. The same could happen, but still, why Islamic insurance is allowed? Because Islamic insurance has been structured with tabarru or with ta'awun concept, which is donation or voluntary type of things. That's why the Gharar is allowed, because we have discussed just now, the Gharar is sensitive for exchange contract, but for the donation based contract, the Gharar is tolerated. This is how the scholars make difference between conventional insurance and takaful or Islamic insurance. Okay? Financial derivatives, for example, future contract, forward contract, with having other issues, there is also one issue of Gharar. Okay? And last, not but least, the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I know Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it is very widely discussing nowadays, and it is very common. But still, I would say there is a big amount of Gharar, because there is no, still in many places, there is no arrangement for protection. And also still nobody knows when they invest Bitcoin, whether they will get return or not. And those, the miner, they can hide anytime, or they can cheat anytime. Nobody is there to catch them. Nobody is there if they do anything wrong to penalize them, right? So still Bitcoin, there is a lot of controversy, and that's why it can be considered still Gharar Fahish. To me, still the uncertainty is a big amount in the Bitcoin. Okay, cryptocurrency or other. Yes, if Bitcoin is supported by the law of the land, if it becomes protected and recognized by the central bank of countries, then in that case, it can be considered property, and it can be considered an avenue to make the investment. Okay, so okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. So I just want to discuss the concept of Gharar and with some application and parameters. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Most welcome. Thank you very much, Dr. Habib, for this wonderful and excellent presentation on the understanding of Gharar. Now we are almost ending the session. Before we conclude the session, let's open the session for any questions or comment from the online guest. So please, if you have any question or anything, any comment, please, you may write in the question box, or you may raise your hand. We can switch on microphone for you. Brother Said, yes, we shared slides in the chat group already. We shared slides. Any question or any comment from our brothers and sisters? So related to Gharar, please, you may ask. Sayyid Masood. Okay, brother Sayyid Masood, please welcome, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Please, yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear. Yeah, please. Yeah.
My name is Said Mahmoud. Hopefully, I will thank our lecturer. May Allah give you
Brother Said, your voice is clear. Your voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, can you speak, please?
Okay.
It's the same, brother. It's the same. Or you may, could you please write in the question box so that we can read it and answer you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, any more question, please? Our brothers and sisters, this is an opportunity. If you don't understand, or if you didn't understand any part, any point, so please you may ask for the clarification. Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are still waiting for any more question. Brother Said, if you are writing in the question box, please you may write, and we are waiting for your question as well. Hmm. We are just waiting, Dr. Habib. We are waiting for Brother Said to write his question. I think he is writing.
Okay, I see a question on the question answer tab. Hello.
Yes, yes, Doctor. Yes.
Can I answer? I can see a question on the
Yes,
question
please.
answer.
Yes, sure, please. Yeah.
Gharar and Maisir are similar concept. How to distinguish them? Gharar and Maisir not exactly similar. Only one component in the Maisir is Gharar. Okay. Maisir has another parameter, another discussion when something will be considered Maisir. For example, to consider Maisir, something you are getting easily available wealth, or Maisir also is mentioned in Hadith with Qimar. Qimar means when you are getting something at the same time some other person will becoming loser, means you are depriving something. So you are getting something with the cost of other person, that will be considered Maisir. And to be considered Maisir also, the subject matter should come from both sides. For example, I put some money, you put some money. Then whoever gains, he will take everything. That will be considered Maisir. So Maisir is not all about the Gharar, but one of the component in Maisir is excessive Gharar. Because when we do compete in a way of Maisir, I put my money, you put my money, and we don't know actually whether who will be loser, who will be gainer. One party will be completely gainer, another party will be completely loser. So that is the total uncertainty. That's why excessive gharar sometimes leads to the gambling, to the maisir. Okay, so maisir and gambling is not exactly similar, but one of the components, significant components, is maisir, is gharar. Another way, excessive gharar sometimes can be constitute maisir, can lead to maisir. Okay, I think the difference between gharar and maisir is clear. Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah, Doctor, thank you. It's clear, Doctor. Doctor, there is another question from Mr. Said.
Okay. When can we consider the gharar as asal and tabi in nowadays transaction? Give us example, please. Okay, it is up to you. For example, I am a buyer. I want to buy something. So when we go to buy something, of course, we focus on something, and some point we ignore. What is our main concern? For example, when I buy this laptop, my concern is the processor of the laptop, the RAM of the laptop, so that the laptop can be speedy. The laptop, maybe the size of the laptop, the display doesn't matter to me, but for another person, maybe the display does matter along with the speed. So my primary concern in the laptop is the CPU, the RAM. is not the display. So if the uncertainty can come from the display side, I may accept, because for me it is secondary. But if the uncertainty arises from the CPU, from the RAM, then I will not accept. So it is subject to the purchaser, to the buyer, what is his main concern. But to be considered Gharar, the main point is the Gharar should be attach or should be available in the primary subject matter, right? Not the secondary one. So it is up to you know which one is primary to you, which one is secondary to you. I put the example of the home, of the house. When we buy the house, is it you focus on the quality of the house, quality of the construction, or your main focus is the location and neighbors and the design of the house? Which one? So my primary concern is the quality of the house, is the construction of the house. So I want to know the details of the raw material of the house. So if any uncertainty, any non-disclosure arises from the raw material side, that will be constitute the Gharar Fahish in that particular contract between me and the supplier. But maybe for another person, he focus on the location, he focus on the design, interior design, or he focus on the front side, back side. All right. So to him, he wants to know the details of that part. So if any non-disclosure arises in that part, that will be constituted Gharar Fahish between him and the supplier. Okay. So it depends on the contract, on the demand in the contract. What is your demand? So if the primary demand will be considered the primary subject matter in the contract, and the secondary demand will be considered secondary in the subject matter. Okay. I don't know whether I make it clear for you or not. So this is the understanding in the concept of considering the primary and secondary. It's not secondary, it's the subsequent. What this come automatically? What comes automatically along with the subject matter? That is the subsequent. So the main focus of Gharar is the primary one, not the subsequent things. Allahu A'lam. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan, Doctor. I think it's clear to brother side. So any more question, please? If there is no more question, we need to end the session. So we may wait for another 1 minute if there is any question or comment. So, Doctor, I think we will end the session here. On behalf of our Islamic Economics Association of the University of Kuwait, I would like to thank you very much. And I think there is one more. Brother Muhammad Amir, he want to ask. Okay, Brother Amir, please, yeah, welcome, please. Brother Muhammad Amir, you raise your hand, we switch on microphone for you, please. Alaikum assalam, Brother Muhammad. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry, I'm late because I'm a blind person.
Oh, okay, please. No problem, please. Yeah.
I want to ask the professor about if is it possible to clarify the difference between Najash and Ghaben and Jahala and Gharar, if possible. Thank you very much. You hear me?
Yes, most. Yes.
Okay. As I heard, the brother is asking about Najash and then
Najash.
Ghabun, then third one
Yes.
Gharar
And
and
Gharar.
Jahala.
Jahal.
Okay. Okay, brother. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu fikum. Najash, the Prophet mentioned Naha and Bay'i Tanajush. Najash and Tanajush, it means artificially price hiking. For example, let's say you are selling something Suddenly your friend comes and said, okay, will you sell this item for me $10? Actually, he doesn't want to buy. He just want to increase the price, because the potential buyer is selling $8, $7, but he suddenly came and he offered $10. So the potential buyer assumed that the actual price is $10. So at least he minimum we want to pay $10, but the actual price is not $10. And your friend also actually doesn't want to buy. His intention is to increase the price. So this is tanajush. Nowadays it can be happen many ways. Even online bidding also it could happen. Okay. So this is all considered any arrangement or any process that the intention is to increase the price artificially, that can be considered tanajush. Okay, annajash. Second one, brother is asking rubun. The IOF Sharia standard translated the rubun is also closely to the tanajush, the price gouging or doing something in to increase the price. For example, nowadays people do manipulation, or they do hoarding to increase the price, or sometimes they do the false statement. Okay, is telling the buyer that, sir, you will not get this product in any other shop. Okay, or nobody can give you the cheaper price than me. Okay, or this is the limited edition. If you don't buy, you may not get it later on. So this kind of a statement is actually misleading. Okay, this will be considered the khiyarul ghubun. So ghubun also mostly related to the deception and doing fraud in pricing, in price. It is also related to the price. And also brother asking jahala, I think I discussed details, the difference between gharar and jahala. So jahala is just simple ignorance. So generally it is tolerated. The contract will not be invalid with jahala. However, if jahala is become substantial and it leads to dispute among the contracting parties, then in that case it will make the contract invalid. As our scholar said, al jahala al muftiya ila niza'. أما الجهالة إذا لا تفضي إلى النزاع لا يكون العقد باطلا بسبب هذه الجهالة. هكذا this way our scholar mentioned in the classical books. And gharar also, all the way I discuss gharar. So gharar is mostly related to the existence and non-existence, and jahala is related to the just qualitative or quantitative part of the subject matter. Okay, I think brother inshallah will be clear. Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you, Doctor, for your clarification. And another question from Brother Said. Some online sellers are making the product bigger in the site, but when the seller collect the product, I think buyer, he will find the product smaller than the one in the seller site. On this case, what the buyer can do, as the buyer have online before the product reach him.
I think the issue in the picture, actually this is not the issue of actual size. This is the issue of using the lens of the camera. But as a buyer, we have to see the size mentioned with the product, because when they put the price, the picture, they also put the size in terms of the length or in terms of the width, whatever. So we focus on the size. We don't focus on the picture, because picture can be bigger, can be looks smaller. It is not the fault. It is just display. It is the issue of display. So we better focus on the size mentioned. Yes, if the seller do the deception and fraud in the mentioning the size, then you can ask refund, or you can apply the policy available, and policy also different based on the site to site. Okay, so I advise don't focus on the picture, focus also on the size mentioned with the picture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Habib. I think there's no more question, or still You still have time if you have any question or comment. Claim that the product is with some gift. Oh, okay. There's another question, Doctor. Is it good to buy from online seller who's claimed that the product is with some gift? Because at times the sellers are adding the amount of the gift with the product.
I think from the Sharia side, there is no issue. This is just promotion strategy. It's up to you. The seller is not forcing you to buy. He just adds some gift and he will add also some pricing. Maybe the actual price of the gift is $10, but he just add $2, $3, $5. So he's offering you a cheaper product. Also, it's also promotion for him, a strategy for him to sell his product. So it's up to you. If you see if it is beneficial for you, if you see you become gainer, so you can buy. If you are not interested, you may not buy. He's not forcing you. But for him, for the seller, it is okay to use this kind of a strategy. There is no Sharia prohibition. There is no Sharia issue. Thank you.
Okay, with that we conclude today's session here. On behalf of our Islamic Economics Association, I would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Md.Habibur Rahman, for your time, for your effort. Though we know that you are very busy nowadays, and Alhamdulillah, Dr. Habib has been blessed with a baby son. Is it,
yes,
Dr. Habib?
Yes, baby boy. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Mabrur, congratulations. We congratulate you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your family. So, Alhamdulillah, we thank you very much from our bottom of heart for giving us this exceptional and excellent presentation. And we would like to thank you very much. Thanks all online guest participants for your presence here today. And see you inshallah soon in our upcoming sessions and programs. And we thank our Dr. Alal Ubaid, Director General, and our members, staffs in the association for their effort. And may Allah bless us all. And with that, we conclude our today's session here. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan.
Thank you, Doctor. Barakallahu feek.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد.
نشرف باللقاء بكم في موائد النادي العلمية، ونسعد بأن نزف إليكم مواعيده الأسبوعية خلال شهر يونيو بحول الله تعالى.
من واحة العلم والمعرفة جامعة الكويت، ومن منارتها الرقمية نادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي.
تكامل وتناسق وتناغم في المواضيع مع التنوع والثراء.
فيا طالب العلم، إن نفسك إذا عودتها البطالة اعتادت، وإن عودتها العمل والجد والسهر سهرت وجدت وعملت.
ونهمس في أذن كل طالب علم بقول القائل: كن عالما في الناس أو متعلما أو سامعا، فالعلم ثوب فخار. من كل فن خذ ولا تجهل به.
وأن إنقاذ الناس من الضلالة وإخراجهم من الظلمات إلى النور أفضل قربة، فلأن يهدي الله بك رجلا واحدا خير لك من حمر النعم.
حياكم الله، أحيوا العلم والأدب، وانشروا العلم بين العجم والعرب،
واعلموا أن من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة.
The programs and activities usually cover a wide range of areas in Islamic banking, microfinance, insurance, capital market, equity market. The features are Sharia principles of Islamic finance, the nature of contracts, products and services provided by Islamic banking.
لقاءات ثرية في انتظاركم ومحتوى يرتقي لتطلعاتكم.
توضع روابط التسجيلات لحضور برامجنا يوميا على قنواتنا ومواقع التواصل الاجتماعي للنادي، فلا تترددوا في حضورها واحتساب أجرها وتحصيل نفعها، فإنها رياض الجنان.